I've been practicing this, so I should be okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
Hey everybody, welcome to Disc Golf Answerman. I am decidedly not Bobby Cool, Daddy Slick Breeze. I am Danny Lindahl. I am one of Bobby's underlings. I am here with another one of Bobby's underlings, Anthony Van de Heuvel.
Oh, wait.
And Robert McCall.
Hey, what's up, guys?
I also don't come up with nicknames.
Yeah.
So, sorry about you.
If you're an underling, you don't have nickname privileges yet.
And Bobby is out of town. He is. It's actually his birthday today, according to Facebook. He is out of town on vacation, so we are taking over Answerman for this week for episode 248 here.
Yeah.
And I guess how have you been doing?
Yeah, life's good, man.
Life's good. It's kind of cold here. It's been getting nicer.
It's been real nice.
This weekend was super nice, which is awesome. For Emporia, we usually have pretty gross winters, at least in the 2 winters that I've been here. Plenty of snow and well below freezing temperatures, and we didn't have a ton of those this year.
No.
Not many in the negatives, if any. I remember.
The big difference is the wind.
The wind will kill you.
You've got to break it.
Yeah.
You've got to break the wind.
Yeah.
With a windbreaker, to be clear.
I was going to say, luckily for you at the Dynamics History Test. I'm just kidding. But yeah, the wind will absolutely get you. When it is 32 outside and it's windy, it feels like you're going to die. But it could be 25 and not windy, and you're like, hey, this is reasonable. So anyway, life's good for me. What about you, Anthony?
Wonderful. I played disc golf in a T-shirt this weekend, and I was not cold. So doesn't get better than that for early January.
Very nice. I had something I was going to talk about, and I completely forgot it. So let's go ahead and jump into the questions.
We'll sprinkle in some extra non-disc golf talk for you guys who like the non-disc golf.
Yeah, this is going to be a little
later.
different. I exclusively like talking about disc golf.
I like talking about disc golf like 80%.
So we're probably going to mix it up.
I'm probably 20% disc golf, 80% not.
Nice. All right.
Let's
Between the three of us,
cut straight to tacos.
Something Torchies Tacos. Yeah, we'll be set.
something Torchies, Evac Truth. Move on.
We also have some discs here on the table,
if
you're watching, that we are going to talk about later. But let's start out with some questions. So this first question is from Glenn.
Nice.
Hey, Disc Golf Answerman. Love the show. Just had a quick question for you. Me and my friend were doing an upshot today on a hole, and we were about 140 feet out. The basket was in a group of trees, and clearly some limbs had fallen around this hole. And the people who do maintenance in the park had placed all these branches in a pile 15 feet from the basket, but right in front of the basket from where you're throwing from the fairway. And so it was an obstacle you had to throw over also. So since this was clearly fallen branches that maintenance had just piled up, I wanted to move them before we threw. But my playing partner said you can't move anything in front of you, which I understand the basic rule, but it just seems like this is clearly a maintenance issue where somebody has left dead branches in a pile in the way, and they're not supposed to be there. And so I was just wondering, I believe you could move them because they're not supposed to be there. And he says, nope, somebody put them there, but now they're there. You just have to avoid that. If you could help me with the rules.
And that's it.
That's it.
All right. We can help you with the rules.
You can crank that back down now. So
That's
that,
probably a good idea.
sweet.
We're going to get like a notification.
Yeah.
Ding.
Okay.
Everyone's deaf.
So there's actually a rule change on this year, but it doesn't really apply to this situation. So the rule change in the past has been that you could move something that is on your lie or directly behind it if it is dead and unattached. Now they've extended that to say if part of that obstruction is on your lie, even if some of it extends in front of your lie, then you can move it out of the way as long as it is dead and unattached. Now, like you said, you're 140 feet from the basket, and there's that brush pile 15 feet from the basket. None of that is on your lie, so you legally would not be able to move that. I will agree with you. That sucks. And it's unfortunate that the maintenance crew who was supposed to take care of that didn't. But if this was a tournament, everybody has to play it that same way. Unless somebody's disc lands right like underneath that
Directly
pile,
there, yeah.
then they would move some of it. But otherwise, you just kind of have to play it, and it's not much fun.
For those of you wondering, the rule is Rule 803.01 and B. And it says a player is not allowed to move any obstacles on the course with the following exceptions. A player may move casual obstacles that are partially or completely on the lie or in the stance area. So I wonder how that applies to straddle putts.
I don't know. That's a really good question.
Anyway,
if you could take a straight on stance, but you choose to straddle,
just to get the stick out
could
of the
you
way.
move that? Yeah.
Like if your disc lands underneath the pile, could you clear out everything there because you could technically straddle and still kick it?
Huh. I wonder. I would have to assume that they would say the stance really is mostly predicated on the foot behind the disc. So if it interviews new jobs, if it interferes with that area, maybe that's what they're. I don't know. That's I think there's some a bit of
interpretation.
Yeah, that's
based
the
on the
word I was
situation.
looking for,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
feel like it would.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like it would have to be, like if it's the only option. If you have the option to take a straight on stance and be fine versus straddle and be in it, then I think you probably wouldn't be able to. You would just have to take the straight on stance because then it's not required.
I think we should all flamingo every putt. Just left
Everyone
foot in the air.
One foot only.
Good point.
That's all you can do. Okay, I'm supposed to have another question ready. I do.
Okay.
Oh, what? You have a question from there?
I got some.
Let's do one. We're going to switch over to the question
Okay.
form.
So we've got our first question from Pierce, and he says, "Why do faster discs have a wider rim than slower discs?"
I think it's like a chicken and an egg question. Right?
I think he kind of asked it backwards.
The disc is faster because it has a wider rim. So Danny has done actually a lot of research into why discs act the way that they do, but it doesn't take a super scientist to know that the wider a rim is, the sharper that it has to be once it gets to the edge, based on our technical standards. So that is going to spin faster in the air than something with a more narrow rim. But you can talk a little bit more about that.
It's just less wind resistance because you want to have the mass towards the outside so you can grab onto it and you can correctly apply the spin or whatever. And having the putters are going to be, the slower discs are going to be taller. So that's why that's where they're going to get their mass from, and they're not going to be very aerodynamic because of that. So the wider rim discs are going to be shallower.
Yep.
And that means that they have to be pointed to keep that mass towards the outside, and that will help them to continue to penetrate through the air.
Yeah. Didn't you say that the amount of weight in the rim on a putter is the same as the amount of weight in the rim on a driver?
Based on rough calculations.
Yeah.
I basically assumed the edges were roughly triangles.
Yeah.
And if you go from the as far as distance from the center, if you measure the mass of a driver all the way to the rim and then a putter all the way to the rim, it's the same.
Yeah.
I don't know that one would technically spin faster than the other. Maybe the diameter difference could cause that, but it's not because of more mass or something like that around the outside.
That's interesting. Science. Disc Golf Science Man.
Approximate science.
Disc Golf Science Man.
Amateur Science Answer Man.
Unverified science.
What's the thing from Adventure Time? It's the guy's like, I have approximate knowledge of many things.
I can dig that.
All right.
Dig that.
You got another one for us, Tom?
I got another one from Chad, and his is about putting practice. He says, when practicing putting, how important is it to practice with the same mold? Should I practice putting with all of my putters or just the putter I use on the course? Thank you. I thoroughly enjoy the show.
Well, I mean, bunch of Team Warden guys sitting here at the table, so
You're probably going to want 25.
you're going to want to check out the Warden. In all actuality, I think inside about 20, it probably won't matter a whole lot. And if all you're trying to get down is your muscle memory of just doing your same stroke over and over and over, maybe not too bad to putt with different molds. However, when I'm putting, I want to putt with exactly what I'm going to putt with in competition. So I get a stack of Wardens, classic ones, and I go to town. That's what I do.
Yeah. I think, for me, I think it's really important. Like, if I'm practicing putting, I'm more practicing the movements and the motions of it rather than, did it go in? Did it not go in? So for me, it's huge because it just gives that mental feel of like, okay, been there, done that, where I putt with Wardens too, and if I were to practice with judges, then when I get out on the course and I'm using a Warden again, it's going to feel different and everything's going to be off.
Yep.
So I would definitely recommend using, it doesn't have to be the exact putter in your bag. I personally don't putt with my exact putter, but I will use Prime Wardens to practice putt because that's what I use on the course.
Yeah.
If you're looking for another way to phrase this answer, also I agree. You can check out the IGTV for the dynamic discs. We have a few Instagram TV videos out there, and one of them is Robert McCall answering that very question while standing next to a basket. So it's a little more scenic, but basically the same information. I'm trying to keep consistent, uploading one of those a week. They should go every Thursday. So keep an eye on the Instagram stories and check out our IGTV to get a lot of Disc Golf Answerman questions answered.
Stuff.
All right, should we jump back over to the Speak Pipe one? I've got another one here
let's do it.
From Frank.
Hey, what's up, DGAM fam? This is Frank from Atlanta. Been playing for about 8 years. Recently took some time off, getting right back into it. Just filled up a bag full of Trilogy plastic. They're flying great.
Nice.
My question is, I've been playing for about 8 years, and I throw with a Bonapane grip because I always had...
Real fast, did he say 80 years?
It sounded like 80. I'm going to assume he meant 8.
It doesn't sound like he's like 96 or something. So
He throws with a
Back when I started
a
playing.
bone. Let's let him finish the question. Then.
nose angle issues, and I was always popping them up. And I can't seem, as hard as I try, I can't seem to keep my front shoulder down enough to get nose down with a conventional grip. But with the Bonapane grip, I get constant nose down, good rip, and constantly over 350 feet with my distance stuff. I think it's because my finger won't wrap comfortably around to put enough pressure. If I put the first finger down under the rim, I can't get enough pressure on the inside of the rim, so it doesn't ever feel like it rips out consistently. My question is, do you think that I could work up to bigger distances with this Bonapane grip, or is it worth it for me to completely redesign how I do it and work from the beginning forward? Anyway, look forward to hearing your answer.
Sweet.
Real quick, do either of y'all know what a Bonapane grip is?
Yes.
Dang it, that was going to be really smart.
Do you? Okay.
I Googled it.
Put your finger on.
Yeah.
top.
So the Bonapane grip, and I assume it's I don't know, named after a person, Bonapane or something like that. I don't
Probably.
know. But what it looks like if you're watching on YouTube, so regular grip, 4 fingers underneath, thumb on top, right? The Bonapane grip is where you bring your index finger up on the top portion of the disc, and it actually goes on top of your thumb. So you're gripping the disc like basically in between the second knuckle of your index finger and the same of your middle finger. And it's just, I don't know, it's really interesting. I've seen a few people throw this grip before. Most of them are throwing it for grenades and stuff like that, but I haven't seen a lot of people use it for backhand drives. Having very limited expertise with that, I can't tell you if that's going to get you more or less distance than a regular power grip. I can say you're probably going to have, I mean, it's not probably, you're definitely going to have one less point of contact under the disc than you would before. So that may create less drag from your fingers coming off, but man, I just haven't thrown that enough to have any idea. How about you guys? Thoughts?
I think having more pressure holding the disc in your hand is going to be better because you're going to be able to hold on to it longer and let your let your arm extend farther, and that's going to be more powerful. You say you can't seem to he
said get his shoulder down enough to get the nose down.
Get the nose down. That's not actually how you want to be throwing to get the nose down. I know when I was struggling with it, I would tend to try and throw the disc at the ground. Like that's got to be nose down because the disc is flying down. But nose down is actually relative to the trajectory of the disc. So in whatever direction the disc is flying, you want it to be angled to where it's flat with that. So even if you're throwing it up, you want to just have it at the same angle as the direction that you're throwing. So rather than tilting your shoulder down, that's going to cause you to dip. And that's what's going to cause that nose up release. So I would encourage you to try a 3-finger power grip. Can I see a disc? Because that helps me. I use just 3 fingers here, like that. I leave my pinky off because that helps me get the disc very nose down. And I would focus on standing up and flexing your wrist down like you're pouring coffee and raising your follow through. Because if the common mistake is a high reach back and a low follow through, and that's going to throw that air skip nose up shot. But if you can lower your reach back and raise your follow through, that's going to match your trajectory to the angle of the disc, and it's going to go pretty high, but it's going to be nose down. And from there, you can learn how to sort of level it out.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Do you use 4-finger power grip or
I
3?
use 4.
Okay.
I've never.
I did for the longest time, and I switched to 3 maybe last year.
Yeah.
And for the same reason, trying to get the nose down a little bit more. I also noticed this is probably just me. I'm sure there aren't a lot of people like this, but when I was holding a power grip kind of like this, I'm hoping you can see that. There it is. This is better. I was noticing once I got to where I was going to throw the disc, especially on distance drivers, my pinky would just kind of slip off whenever I was getting ready to throw. And so I was like, well, that's kind of annoying. And then I thought to myself, maybe I should just start like this. That seems like a better idea. And so, yeah, I've stuck with 3 fingers since. And then side benefit that honestly I wasn't thinking about at the time was that I think I get the disc a little bit more nose down than I did before.
For sure.
For sure.
All right, let's talk about these discs that are in front of us real quick. Let's take a break from the questions.
Yeah, so
Flipping
these
back
are
over
the
here.
2019 new releases from Dynamic Discs, Latitude 64, and Westside Discs. And you're going to like it. Let's just get it out there. I know that, yes, this is a show put on by Dynamic Discs. We're in the Dynamic Discs Distribution Center. But I can tell you I am a big fan of these discs, and we hope that you will be too. So let's start with the slowest of the discs. We've got 2 putters this year. One of those is the Keystone from Latitude 64. This is going to be the Trilogy Challenge putter, as well as U.S. Amateur Match Play Championship, I'm pretty sure. The Keystone feels a little deeper than something like a Deputy, and I think it flies like a slightly more stable Deputy. So it's not, for me, yeah, I throw blend Wardens in the spot that I would throw this, but when I was throwing this out in the field, I would just put a little bit of hyzer on it. It would stand up to flat and then just kind of push right. Not turn right hard and dive, but just kind of push and, yeah, just a little bit right.
I'd say the stability is right in between a Warden and a Deputy. Like
you
were saying.
Yeah, that's a really good way
there.
to put it. A little bit more hyzer, and it would just go straight and straight and straight and straight. It's really, really cool. So the Keystone, I think, is going to be popular in a lot of players' bags for that kind of approach game. I haven't putted it on a basket yet, but it feels pretty comfortable in the hand for me for that. So that's the Latitude 64 Keystone.
It reminds me a lot of a Pure, but like a little bit deeper. I feel
Pure's pretty shallow, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So you've got the guard there.
Gourd. Basically, the way
That's
that people...
that's pronounced guard, not gourd.
Oh.
We're sticking with the judicial theme. We're not switching over to
I thought we were going like
foods.
harvest, fall.
Yeah,
theme.
it's
Sorry.
a fall theme. Gourd.
My bad, guys. My bad. The guard
Oh.
is basically the Reader's Digest version. Is people have been saying it's like a beadless dagger because if it'll show up on camera, it is super monster deep and beadless. So if you are the person who likes that slow flying, super floaty putter, I think the guard is 1,000% the way to go.
Yeah.
The Warden and the Marshall and the Judge and things like that in our lineup haven't been traditionally very deep. The Marshall kind of a little bit, at least for me.
Right.
But this is considerably and noticeably deeper than anything else in our lineup. And I think a lot of people are going to like it probably more for like push putting, I think is where this is going to be a super home run. But if you've just got big hands and like throwing that slow, floaty style putter, I think the guard's going to be super good.
When I grabbed that for the first time, we got to test these out in Sweden, and they had just come out of the machine. And when I grabbed it, I was like, "Man, this is going to flip! Like, come on!" And it's actually really straight, stable. Like,
yeah,
it's a good line holder, and so I think people are going to really like that. Like you said, especially people with bigger hands are going to enjoy throwing this disc because it's it's nice and deep. So.
We have a question. Country Disc Golf says, how blunt is the nose on the guard? And I would say very.
Quite.
Extremely.
When I threw it, it would like, it feels like it's going to go really far because of the power you put on it, but it's so slow that it just ends up hovering and then falling at the end, which it's a good flight to have.
Yeah, it kind of flies a bit like a catch disc in that way.
Yeah.
Where it looks like it's going a lot farther than it is, but once it slows down, it's still staying in the air and pushing forward, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you guys are going to like that a whole lot. Is the guard similar to a P2 in depth? I think it's probably pretty close. I haven't felt a P2 in forever, so I couldn't tell you. But
I would guess maybe a little bit deeper.
If a hair.
Yeah, it's a wider diameter, I think.
Okay.
It feels like it anyway. I don't know if it actually is, but it feels similar to the flight, but or as far as the depth, but it might be a little bit wider diameter.
For sure. Yelte. Whatever it is. We are talking about our new releases. That's what we're doing right now. So, Moving on, we've got our mid-range this year is going to be the Gatekeeper from Westside Discs. I think the Gatekeeper is going to be a fan favorite. It is, I think it's a little bit slower than the mid-ranges that we talk about a lot, the EMAC Truth, the Verdict, things like that. The rim is a little bit slimmer than those. But I think the high-speed stability on this is really, really good. You can lean into this, and it pretty much just wants to hold the line that you put it on. And at first, especially the first few throws, it's just going to be like just a nice, consistent, small fade. This is a winner. I think people are really going to like the Gatekeeper.
I have a Biofusion Verdict, and that it fits that slot exactly. Just a little bit. It'll pop up to flat on like 10 degrees of hyzer.
Yeah.
And then like 20 degrees of hyzer, it'll hold it the whole way. And if you smash it flat, it will work right. Just a little bit.
Yeah. I think people who have difficulty throwing mid-ranges because they torque them too much or don't have the cleanest form, I think they're going to find a friend in the Gatekeeper because it is pretty torque resistant and high speed stable.
Oh, very
I think you're going to like that.
It's super good.
But work on your form so you don't have as much torque. Think about it. Okay. Let's move on. You've got the 2 Latitude 64 discs. Why don't you talk about the Pioneer?
I'll give this one to Danny.
Yeah.
The Pioneer is very overstable. It's a 9-speed, 8-speed, something like that. So a little bit on the faster side of things. And like I said, very overstable, sidearm, wind fighter type disc. Not quite in that like Justice where it's basically just utility shots. You can use this for big hyzers and things like that. But there was a few times yesterday, Danny and I were out throwing these where I would throw it probably about like that, and it would still fight out and work its way left hard at the end.
If you're listening to the podcast, that was like 20 degrees of anhyzer.
Yeah, it has a good reliable fade. That's what really surprised me. It kind of flew like a felon out of my hand, where felons don't dump right away. They kind of hold straight, and then at the end they sort of glide left. And this had a little bit less glide and a little bit more dump to it. So just a little bit more of that bite into the ground.
That's what I would say. Yeah, a little bit more aggressive finish, a little bit more overstable than a felon. Maybe not quite an Ati.
I'd say they're comparable.
Yeah.
Really good disc. I think some
super
people
good.
are going to like that. I think between the Pioneer, the Ati, and the Felon, your kind of overstable fairway slot is pretty much covered. I think one of those is going to be something that can fit in nearly everyone's bag who is looking for something in that slot.
I was thinking Latitude doesn't really have something like that, and then I thought of the Sparks. Did you throw the old Sparks much?
I think this is more overstable than the old Sparks.
I think this will hold straighter.
Yeah.
From what I remember about those old Sparks, they were just like come out of your hand, and they're going down already.
Yeah. I honestly, it's been a long time since I've thrown one of them, so I couldn't tell you. But I think that's going to be a very good one. They've had the Triple X before, but it's kind of it's more blunt nosed, and it's just I don't know. It's kind of an interesting feel. This is more of that traditional overstable fairway kind of feel.
Yeah, it's got a little bit more glide, I think.
Yeah, super comfortable for forehands, I think.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And then you've got the recoil over there.
I do. I'm going to flip cameras because I feel important for this one.
Yeah.
All right. So the recoil here is a distance driver from Latitude 64. It sort of fits in between, like, what am I thinking? A Flow and a Gladiator.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was trying to think Latitude. Usually I say Trespass and Enforcer because it has that glide and that straight penetration of the Trespass, but then it definitely does have a little bit of hookup to it. The turn, it had a little bit. I was throwing it in a tailwind originally, and when I went out and threw it later without such a tailwind, it was a little bit easier to get that turn, but it's similar to like a Lucid X Trespass, where it's got that stability. It's gonna you don't have to worry about flipping it over too much, and it was work to get it to work right at all. Even on like a flat
you got to
release.
hit it.
You've got to smash it. I would say it's got like a defender stability and like a Trespass sort of feel and shape.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
They go far.
Yeah, and they were smashing. So Grady Shoe's a new player to Team Latitude 64 this year and next year. Super excited to have him on the team. He was throwing the recoil and Pioneer out there, and he was getting it to move just a little bit to the right, but then still had that consistent fade. And that guy throws the Frisbee quite well. So I'm excited to try this one out a little bit more. So those are the 2 Latitude 64 drivers. Last one we're going to be able to talk about today is the Dynamic Discs Vandal. This is, in my opinion, kind of like a longer Maverick. So really easy to control. I I wouldn't say a guaranteed turn necessarily, but if you lean on it a little bit, it's going to move right and just hold right. It doesn't feel to me like I'm going to worry about it dumping so hard that it rolls unless I'm putting it on a roller angle, right? Unless I'm hitting it on that 45-degree anhyzer with the intent of getting it to, 11 o'clock on a clock or something like that, right? So something like that, I think the Vandal is going to be great for. I think newer players are going to love the Vandal because they're going to be able to throw it straighter than most anything else they've thrown at this speed. And I think more experienced players are going to love it for the easy hyzer flip to flat and then just drift right. It is a little bit faster than the Maverick, so I think it's going to excel in those spots where you don't want to lean on a Maverick too hard necessarily. So this is going to fill that spot for you. Paige Bjerkes was throwing this exceptionally well out in the field. Like, baby hyzer up to flat and then just straight, tiny fade. So I think this is going to be pretty great. Yeah,
that one, of all of these, the one that I'm going to most likely to bag is probably the Vandal. And right 100%. Behind that's the Gatekeeper. Yeah. They are good Frisbees. So we should probably jump back into the questions now.
Yes. Hold on. One more new release.
Okay.
It's not out yet, but the Raider from Dynamic Discs is going to be coming out pretty much as soon as we can get them in. I know now today that the mold has arrived in Sweden and that they were going to be running them either today or tomorrow. So we should have some feedback on them soon. The Raider is supposed to be a distance driver that kind of fits like us, like we were talking about, between the Trespass and the Enforcer. I think it's going to be one that people will carry multiples of and that they'll cycle in their bag. I could not be more stoked about that.
There's in SpongeBob, there's a surfer dude character, and he goes, noise! That's just what was in my head the whole time.
That's what it makes you think of. I like it.
Real quick, one more thing about these discs. If you are in the Emporia area or are coming to the Emporia area, we do have one of these set up, or every one of these set up at the warehouse. You can check in with Colton, and you can take these things off to the side of the warehouse. We have a little practice driving range area set up, and he will let you test them out, give your opinions, and if you're just looking to try some sweet new discs before they come out, head on down to Emporia.
For sure. We got a couple of clarifying questions on these.
Okay.
One of these guys says Saint versus Vandal. The Saint and the Vandal are pretty similar speed. I think the Saint's going to turn just a little bit more. When are these available to the public? The Latitude releases, the Recoil and the Pioneer. Be looking for those in February. Be looking for the Vandal and Guard in March. And then Gatekeeper is probably going to be around a GBO release. The Keystone and... the Guard will be coming out in March. The Vandal and the Keystone are going to be Trilogy Challenge discs, along with a TP Burst version of the Gatekeeper, which will be the only way that you can get that. It's going to be sweet.
Nice.
And then the Raider is going to be, as soon as we can get them in, I bet that's going to be around a GBO release as well. Vandal versus Renegade, similar flights. Renegade's quite a bit faster. Raider versus
the Renegade's way more understable.
Yeah, the Vandal,
so?
I could power up fairly well, and it wouldn't roll automatically.
Yeah.
The Renegade will pretty much roll automatically if I throw it as hard as I can.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think the Vandal's like stability of like a Lucid X Maverick for me.
Okay, yeah, that's probably a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I can dig that. Raider versus Recoil. Thomas, we don't know yet. We haven't seen the Raider yet. We will be able to compare those at some point. Vandal versus River. The River is going to be quite a bit slower and a little bit more turn. Move on.
Okay. I think we'll throw it over to one of the questions from the forum.
All right, we got one from Brandon asking about divisions. He says, hello to the best disc golf podcast and home of the best disc golf company there is.
What up?
When Bobby's here.
Wow. Yeah. Not his question.
It's the next best. It's like better than best. The new best.
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect. He says, I've been playing disc golf a little over 2 years, and I love this amazing sport. I have been playing rec, but have been moving up to intermediate and advanced when I can. Very smart. But our local C and small B tiers seem to only have rec and open. I've won 4 tournaments this year, but they are in the rec division. I keep getting called a bagger, but I'm not ready for open. With only rec and open, how do I avoid this? Thanks.
Ooh.
First of all, that's very interesting. Rec and open. Yeah. I wonder if he's looking, if it's like a 2-day, like how we have Monkey Island Open, where certain divisions play 1 day.
I don't know.
Maybe talk with your TDs and see if you can't.
Yeah, I think that's the solution.
Yeah. I haven't heard of only rec and open. Usually.
If it's amateur and open.
Yeah.
Maybe. I've seen like amateur, not at a sanctioned event though. That's so weird. Yeah, usually if it's 2 divisions, it's advanced and open, and then intermediate, advanced and open, and then rec intermediate.
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe it sounds like it's probably a smaller community if they're not getting people in those divisions. So maybe reach out to the TD or TDs that are running events in your area and see if you can't get a division added or something. I know there's what is it, 4 people minimum for a division?
Some TDs will run it with just 1 person.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, usually if a TD has 3 people, they'll make a division. Plain and simple.
Yeah, so maybe reach out to them and see if they can't do something for you.
Yeah. That's a weird jump.
Yeah.
And as much as it sucks to be called a bagger, like, I'm sorry, but
that's not his fault.
At the end of the day, if you're playing within your rating, like if your rating justifies that you can play rec, play rec. It's totally within your right to do that.
Just because you won the tournament, like, someone is going to win.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean you're bagging.
That is correct.
All right, so this one is from Derek. He says, "Hey, DGAM crew, I was looking at the in-flight guide on inboundsdiscgolf.com and found their description of disc flight and distance was spot on for the discs I've thrown. However, I was a little surprised to see that the flight characteristics were listed nearly identical for the Westside Catapult and Latitude 64 Ballista Pro. From what I've read, the Catapult has some turn to it and can be downright flippy, where the Ballista Pro is very stable with no turn. Could you please compare the two?"
Yeah.
So you probably have the most experience with the Ballista Pro, right, Robert?
I've thrown both of those discs.
Okay.
I threw it when the Catapult came out. I threw it quite a bit because it was right after I was back from knee surgery, and I could not throw stuff very well. Or maybe right before. I don't remember. Something like that.
Around that time.
Yeah. So an interesting thing about flight numbers.
Do they matter?
I think they matter, but they're created by different people in different climates, different testing conditions, and everything like that. And so, and the West Side discs previously have had numbers that I think aren't as accurate for most U.S. players because they test at a different elevation, and
which makes a big difference.
Yeah, it really does. So over there, this was interesting. The very first high-speed overstable discs that were kind of sent over to our team were the Giant a long time ago, and at the time it was like pretty overstable, you know. But then when you start playing GBO and playing in the wind and things like that, I mean, those Giants would just roll over because they're not intended to fly like that. And Thomas, the disc designer for Latitude 64, said, "You don't need anything more overstable than a Giant. That's as overstable as you'll ever need." False. If you're playing in that sort of wind, yeah. So, a lot of those discs were made with those certain numbers in different circumstances than the ones you're going to be throwing. So the Catapult is going to be a similar speed, but quite a bit more understable than the Ballista Pro. I wouldn't say the Ballista Pro has no turn out of the box for a lot of people. It has a small amount of turn for me, but it's not a ton. The Catapult is a hyzer flip to flat and ride right for me. Yeah.
I feel like the Ballista Pro is a little bit faster too. Like the rim is a little bit wider.
I could see that. I like it.
Yeah, it's I haven't thrown the Catapult, but I don't think the Ballista Pro is overstable. And from what I've seen, the Catapult's like you're talking, it's a hyzer flip to flex line, maybe like a, what is it, the like a lighter weight Opto would have a little bit of that same sort of line, but definitely not a max weight.
Yep, I agree.
All right, this one is from nobody. There's no name.
Good.
And it's specifically for Robert McCall.
Oh, what's up?
And he mentions that, or she mentions that twice. So
this
Robert,
is specifically for.
This is specifically for you.
You're in luck. I'm here.
You mentioned your highest rated round occurring when you were not physically at 100%.
Right.
In your opinion, what allowed this to happen? Was it a mentality change or a greater focus?
Great question. I ask myself that a lot because that's the best round I've ever played, and now I can throw. I'm probably clear about 100 feet farther now than I was throwing then. Oh man, what a joke! That was my first tournament back from knee surgery. I was throwing max about 330 with a king, and what allowed me to score so well that round is I threw just really clean lines. I put the disc where I wanted to. It flew how I thought it needed to, and then I made every putt I looked at except for one 35-footer. That ended up being 1063 rated, and it was on a course that there are plenty of birdies, but you can get in a lot of trouble. And I wasn't getting in a lot of trouble. I was hitting a bunch of lines with a pretty janky form and like high-speed understable discs. But part of it too was I didn't have any expectations going into the event. I was rated 1,000 at the time, but that was from 2 years before. The first round I played was 950 something, and I could point out the mistakes that I made to get to that point. And so the second round, I didn't really have anything to lose. I was on like the third card, bottom of the third card, and just started out hot, made all the birdies, and shot up. I think it was a 49 on the Zevos all longs layout. So yeah, that was pretty sweet. If I went out on a regular day and I finished in the low to even like right around 54 range, I'd be pretty stoked today. Mm-hmm. So it was just one of those days where just everything was clicking. Putt felt really good, and so I missed 135 footer. It was for 4 on a par 4. Or sorry, it was for 3 on a par 4.
Nice. So I wonder if it's just not thinking about so much what you're doing and just focusing on the gap and the execution.
Yeah.
Send it.
Yeah. I was exclusively like 2/3 sending.
Which was about as good as you can do considering you had one leg.
Yeah. It was pretty rough. I would plant with my right foot and then like almost not even turn my foot, just kind of go like and just whip my shoulders around. Actually, I think that's one of the reasons that I round so much today is that's how I relearned to throw. But anyway, it was cool.
All right, so this one is from David Persson in Sweden.
Oh, what's up?
When I go to train in the field, I have big problems to stay motivated. I just want to go to the course and get a round in instead. It's really hard not to hurry too much in the field. Any advice for me?
Discipline is really important if you want to improve in disc golf. You've done a lot of field work and talked about it a lot. Talk about that a little bit.
I generally I'll play a game where I'll throw my putter as far as I can and try to land my mid-ranges on top of it. And then I start with the most overstable and work towards the understable one. And then my most understable mid-range, I'll throw that as far as I can and try to land my fairway drivers on top of it. So you could try playing games, or I like to challenge myself by filming. Because if you film yourself, then you're probably going to see something wrong, and that will give you something to focus on, an objective to achieve. And if you can keep working on that until you've got it, you feel like you're doing it right, and then you film yourself and you're actually not doing it right at all, and so that you do it until you feel like you're really doing it right, and then you're still not doing it right. This is my story anyway. That gives me something to, something to focus on and something to work on. And then once you've learned that, it's just repetition and repetition to ingrain that new thing into your muscle memory.
Yep.
So it's, it's a matter of having an objective, either accuracy or try to best your personal distance record or working on filming.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing, even for me, is just like set a goal. Go out there and say, okay, I want to work on this. I want to get better at this. I want to do this. Make a game of it. Like you said, throw your putter and then try and land on top of it. Do something other than just, I'm throwing Frisbees at nothing.
Right.
This is fun. Now I have to go walk and pick them all up and do it all over again.
Yeah. Being focused is definitely the way to do it.
Yeah. Make some sort of a game. Make some small goal or something like that. So the next one we have here is from not Bobby Brown, just Bob Brown.
Maybe his dad. No, his dad is Robert.
His dad's Robert. So it's a cousin.
Yeah.
He says, do both feet have to be on the tee pad during your throw?
Assuming they're both touching the ground, yes. Mm-hmm. If you're one of those crazy people who, when you're getting ready to throw, you start off the side of the tee pad and then get one foot on the tee pad and lift your back foot off while you throw, then only that foot has to be on the tee pad. But all points of contact with the earth, ground, whatever you want to call it, have to be on the tee pad when you're throwing. I've seen people throw, lines that it helps to throw off the back of the tee pad to throw, and so they'll start their run up farther back, plant their plant foot, usually their right foot, on the very back of the tee pad, and then just lift their left whenever they throw it. It's just really tricky to do properly. Most people aren't going to call you on that if you are really close, but I don't like doing that. I don't like the consistency that comes with it, so I just keep both of them on.
It's kind of like the inverse of the step putts, where people will step past their line and throw their putt before they come down.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Backwards. The rule here is 804 or 802.04 teeing off. It says when a disc, part B says when a disc is released, the player must have at least one supporting point within the teeing area, and all supporting points must be within the teeing area.
There we go.
also a story.
Yes.
My old home course is Burns Park Red in North Little Rock. And hole 18 is either like a straightish forehand or a turnover down a big hill, like a putter turnover.
Mm-hmm.
It plays like 250 feet maybe. And super easy putter turnover. You just throw it flat. Or there's a massive hyzer over complete jail that if the wind is right, you might get within 30 feet. I almost exclusively throw the hyzer.
Because it's fun.
Not usually in like a tournament or in a mini. If I'm playing really well, I will definitely throw the hyzer. But if I'm playing poorly and trying to salvage my score, I will throw the turnover. But if I'm playing super poorly, big hyzer again.
Hyzer time.
But that's one of those where you start off the back of the tee pad and you run up and it's like 60 degrees up. You're almost
super
throwing
knife.
it more up.
Yeah.
And it's almost like an understable disc, so it'll pan up and then glide straight past the stupid pine tree I always hit, and then it'll fade back towards the basket if you're lucky. But that's an example of throwing off the back of the tee pad.
Yeah, I've seen people do it on the left side of the tee pad as well, or the right side, where they just barely get a foot on and pick their foot up off. I don't like it, but it's within the rules to be able to do that.
All right, we should jump over to a speak pipe question for this one.
Let's
do
if I was ready for it, which I am now. Okay, this next one is from Cole. This is 18 seconds long, so let's pay attention.
All right.
What's up, guys? This is Cole from Seattle. Just got a quick question about if you guys are going to be coming to Beaver State Fling, or if Dynamic has anything planned for that. Would love to see you guys in the Pacific Northwest, and love what you guys do. Thanks.
Short, sweet, to the point. I like it, Cole.
Thanks, Cole.
I would not be shocked
At
if we were.
At this point, I do not plan on going. However, I really want to go sometime. That's one of the ones on my bucket list is Beaver State.
Same.
I have a strong feeling that there will be a DD presence there because there's the Portland Open like the weekend before or after. So I may or may not have been involved in conversations about possibly us or someone going. Maybe.
If
We're always working on it.
if one of those someones gets to be me, I'm stoked. Let's go.
Maybe
Same.
possible.
All right, we'll see.
All right, we have one more speak
luck.
pipe question, and then we're all caught up. You're welcome, Bobby.
My fate is in Anthony's hands.
Got you, dude.
This one is from Michael.
Hi, Disc Golf Answerman crew. This is MK in Kansas City. I have a question for Robert. Latitude 64 seems to be losing players like crazy. What's going on with him? Thanks.
Great question, Michael. I've recently thought about just posting something about this, or at least talking with Latitude's leadership about posting something about this. And David Berglund posted a little bit about kind of what Latitude's plans are for 2019 and what they're doing, but specifically on the team side, I can speak to that. So Latitude's team had gotten to where there was a lot of people on that team. I think there was at the time only one team bigger in disc golf, and that's Innova. Innova has,
I think it's 1 million players.
they have a lot of
I think
players.
it's 1 million people.
They have a lot of players. And then they have like a whole nother big ambassador team. Which I mean, good for them. They've been at it for a long freaking time, right?
Yeah.
But Latitude had, I want to say 115, 120 players or so on the team, and it had just gotten to the point where team expenses were astronomical, like so many people on the team, and wanted to focus in a little bit more on some of the people that we want to support going into the future, who we think are moving the direction that we want to go. And a lot of the people who left the team, some of the people we kind of assumed would leave because they were going to get a different sponsor. Some of the people we weren't expecting to leave, and they did, and that's just how it goes. But at the end of the day, Latitude's plan is to take some of that sponsorship money that we were spending on players, grab some new, younger talent, which we have. You know, Grady Shue is one of those people. I think you're going to see some increased presence from Emerson Keith this year. You're definitely still going to see Johnny McRae out on the road, and that guy impresses me every time I play with him or watch him. He's so good, and he's been at it for forever. So you're going to see those people out on the road a lot. One of the people I'm super excited to see out on the road more this year is Rebecca Cox. She had kind of a breakout year, in my opinion, last year, and she's super good.
She's good.
And she wants it. Like, she wants it bad. So she trains hard. So I'm excited to see those guys out on the road, and we're going to have a lot of other people at different tournaments throughout the year. But we also picked up some younger guys and girls, talented people who we think have a future in the sport, who we want to show some support to and just kind of see what they can do with some of that support. And so we allocated some of that money toward them, and then we're going to spend some more of that money working on growing disc golf tournaments, tournament sponsorship, and kind of things like that. And so great question. I feel like a lot of people think Latitude's going bankrupt, or I've even heard this one. This is my favorite. DD's going to buy Latitude.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Good for us.
Yeah.
Let's go.
They sold. They sold to us. No, Latitude is not in financial trouble. I want to get that out there. Good to go. Just felt like we were spending too much on the team for the return that we were getting. And so as it is with sponsorships, some cuts were made, some people left on their own, some were kind of a mix of both. And like I said, some people left that we really didn't want to. And that's just kind of how it goes. But I personally am really excited to see how our team performs moving into the future. I think 2019, you're going to see some big performances, like I said, from Emerson, Grady, Johnny, Rebecca, those type of people. But then we also signed a couple of young guns like Clint Calvin out of California. He won U.S., not M Nationals. He won the other one.
U.S. Amateur Disc Golf Championship or something like that, right?
Yeah. The one.
Green?
No. It was there's the one at Toboggan, and then there's the other one. And I think he won the other one. I don't remember. I'm sorry, Clint. I can't remember the name of the tournament you won right now. But Clint is super well-spoken, young guy who is really excited about disc golf. He's rated in the 990s right now, but I would not be surprised to see him well over 1,000 by the end of the year. We got some great players who we've seen come up as younger players. Like Quinn Rodius is a guy we just signed, throws the disc a mile. Yeah, so
real far.
I'm very excited for the future of Latitude. It's okay, here it is. I'm going to keep it real. It's really funny to watch some of the comments online for people who are just speculating about things that are happening. What you don't know is that there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that you'll never know, and that just kind of the public shouldn't know. You know, like same thing goes with Innova. I know some Innova sponsored players. They're good friends of mine. I have no idea what goes on behind the scenes at Innova or Discraft or whomever. But a lot of people online assume that they know everything about it, right? At the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that you won't see. One thing I would say is do not believe everything that you see online about people leaving and why they're leaving, their reasons for leaving, their reasons for doing something different. Unless you know the person personally, let that be their business. And support the companies and players that you want to support. And if you're listening to the show, we really appreciate you supporting us. Thank you.
All right.
Boom.
Speech done. Sorry.
Speech done. All right. Thank you. The last thing before we sign off of the recording here, we will hang out for a little bit for the live viewers, is Physics of Flight. That has started last Thursday. It's a instructional series. This is the third time that we've done a Physics of Flight, so it's Physics of Flight 3. And then episode 1 was the fantastic Mr. Eric Oakley talking about forehands. And he did a great job breaking down the grip and the form and the shot shapes and how to use it all. So I would definitely recommend checking that out. And on Thursday, we will have the next Physics of Flight about putting with our very own Robert McCall.
Hey, what's up?
He is going to talk about the good grips to use. And putting is kind of weird because it's so personal. Yeah. Everyone putts kind of differently, but there are some things that you can do to keep it consistent for whatever putting style you have. So he's going to talk about how to identify that style and how to make it more consistent and how to adapt it for the different situations.
Yeah,
so,
we got Paige Bjerkes in there for a little bit.
Yeah, we do.
She does some putting, and she's a very, very good putter. So that was good to have her around, and yeah, adjusting for the wind and variables, and it's going to be cool. So
looking forward to it.
How many of your tips can we give like a sneak preview?
Yeah.
How many of the tips revolve around just using a Warden?
Well, we got lots of Warden tips in there. It says here's some different types of putters, but really the one that you need to use is the Warden.
Or use the Warden, yeah.
I putt with a hybrid style of putt, but whatever style of putt you choose, the Warden is your best option. It's that sort of stuff.
Kind of across the board.
So yeah, we're going to premiere that on Thursday at
yes.
3
o'clock
3 Central.
Yes. Yeah, there will be a will pop up on probably Thursday morning or maybe Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah.
And you can set a reminder there, and it will be. It's not a live stream. It just plays the video for the first time for everybody, so you can kind of jump in the chat. You can jump in a chat and you can react with everybody as you're watching the video.
Yeah, and I'll be in the chat as well. So if you have questions about it or comments, I would love to respond to those, and we'll just have a good old time.
If Robert's in the chat, I will not decline to be there, but I will watch. So
we'll have a good time.
So thank you all for listening. As always, send your disc golf questions into discgolfanswerman.com. We have SpeakPipe, or we have the written questions. Either one will work, and we will get those answered on air. And Bobby will be back. Was he going to be back by next week?
Yeah, I think he gets back on Saturday. He's in. By the way, he's in Panama right now, and it's pretty freaking sweet. I've seen he's posted some pictures on Instagram, some on Facebook, and stuff
Looks
like that.
pretty nice.
Seems like he's enjoying himself quite well.
Also, we live stream this usually Tuesdays around 1:30 or 2 o'clock. So for the recorded podcast listeners, if Bobby posts this, definitely tune in and catch us then.
Yeah.
Thank you.